I'm Micheline from Americana Long Arm Quilting. We do custom quilting and long arming, and you can find a link to our website in the description below. Y'all, look at this beautiful vintage quilt hanging up behind me. Today, I'm going to take you along and share with you the story of how I found it and how it's created. Now, let's get started looking at this quilt. So let me tell you a little bit more about how I got this quilt. Went up to visit my daughter in Franklin, Kentucky, just outside of Nashville, Tennessee, a while back. And my husband and I spied this antique mall. And so he was such a sweetheart, and he just pulled right into that antique mall, and we went and shopped for about an hour and a half. I think that's all the time it was that we got to walk through this huge mall. And we ended up with 3 different projects. I'll show you the other 2 another day, but this one is honestly my favorite. The other 2 aren't completed quilts, they're flimsies. This one is a completed quilt, but boy, is she in rough shape. She's got all kinds of holes, rips, tears. I mean, it is disintegrating before my very eyes. As a matter of fact, I was really kind of worried about hanging her up on my design wall because I don't want her to fall apart. So we're going to do this video, and then I'm going to put her carefully away in a nice box just for her. She is beautiful though, and I love the way she's made, and it took me a while looking at her to figure it out, and I'm going to share that with you today. So this entire quilt is actually, the blocks are actually set on point, which makes it a little bit interesting. Not harder, just interesting. This is the actual block right here. So what I'm going to show you now, I'm just going to put this little piece of paper right in here. There's your center square. This is a square and a square, so that's not that much difficult. Let me put these on there and I'll show you where the first round of square and a squares go, okay? All right, I'm gonna put this one here. Hopefully these will stick on the wall and not fall on the floor. Okay. So I'm just going across the points of that first square, right? There we go. Okay, so the first pieces that need to be constructed and applied to that center square are these triangle pieces right here. See those? 4 little triangles right here. So on this first round of triangles that are going to be put on your square, there's a half square triangle and 2 triangles that are attached to the sides of that half square triangle, and then they're applied to that. Okay, now the second round, let me see here, how can I show you the second round? Oops, dropping things. Okay, so now I'm just going to go like this. Hang on, maybe if we go down to here like that. Okay, so this would be, whoopsies, stay up there, please. Okay, so I can only show you half at a time, I think. So these are the next rounds, and there'd be another one here and another one here. And they consist of 2 half square triangles with 2 triangles sewn together and then sewn on the top of them, and then a triangle sewn on either side to make those units, and then they're sewn on. So a totally scrappy quilt, but really a brilliant way to do it. And I cannot wait to pull together some scraps and show you how to make this. All right, here we go on making our first round around the square and a square. So what we're going to work on right now are these triangle units that we're going to apply to that center square. So these triangle units consist of a half square triangle right there and 2 triangles that will sew to either side of that. So that's what we're going to do next. Now, this is scrappy, but I made a sample that was just totally scrappy, and I wasn't in love with it. I think one of the things about the quilt, I'm looking at it over there now, I think one of the things that I love so much about the quilt is the fabric placement. Although all these pieces are scrappy, the fabric placement really makes the block. It makes the block stand by itself. And when I did it all scrappy, and I'll show you that block in a minute, it was cute, but it didn't make the block have sides, I guess is what I'm trying to say. So I was very particular in finding a pair of a light and a dark for my half square triangle, and then getting a couple or one square cut in half to apply to that I can then use. Well, you'll see. Once we get this round done, I'll show you exactly what I'm talking about that will make the block have those sides, okay? But first of all, let's get to work on these. Okay, so I've got 4 collections here, 3 and 4. Let's work with this one. He's fun. Okay, I'm going to take those over there and set them over there. I'm going to take my triangles and set them to the side. I've got a light and a dark. I'm going to put those right sides together. And by the way, when I was doing my first sample block, I realized, well, I knew this all along, that that there's a lot of bias going on here. So I was very careful to make sure that all of my outer edges are going to be on the straight of grain when I cut, okay? But we still have a whole bunch of biases. So I starched the heck out of this fabric, and it was kind of fussy to do because I cut it all first because it was out of my scraps. So I cut my scraps first, and then I laid them over on my big table and sprayed the heck out of them, and then came back and did the ironing. So we'll see how that works. Now, I do still have my, I think I will draw a line on these. Let's see here. Where's a pencil? There's one. I have a new desk. So I'm learning my new desk and where I can put everything and how it all works together. And so far, I'm really enjoying it. It's a lot bigger. And this Christmas break from my drapery business, I have redone a lot of things in my workroom. I've color-coded all of my fabrics. I don't know if you can see that back there. And I am going to take you on a workroom tour very shortly. All right, I've drawn my line. I'm going to sew it 1/4 inch on either side of that line. And, you know, I just remembered that the last time I was sewing, I realized I need to put a new needle in my machine. So when I get done with this portion, I will put a new needle in. I think what I was sewing on the other day was a little bit thicker, and so I could hear my needle going pop, pop, pop every time it went through. All right, I'm going to cut that in half. Oopsies. Okay, now one of these is going to go to the side for another one of the blocks, okay? And I am going to carefully open this up, and I'm just going to, really carefully, this is a bias seam, so I am going to just gently press that open just so that I can go ahead and apply my 2 triangles. Okay, now I want the darker piece. Let me see here for a second. I think I want my darker piece away in my half square triangle. I think I want my darker piece in this section up here. So my triangles are going to go here and oopsies. Is that right? Hang on a minute. Let me get that. Let me get it done here like this. No, that's not right. It's that way. Okay. So I'm going to have them attached like that. Okay. So I'm still attaching on the grain, not on a bias here. This is my bias here. So I should be able to do this really nicely. Okay. Let me get it up there. And it is past the end of my half square triangle. My triangle is past my square. The end of my triangle is past my square. I'll show you. See how it extends past that? There's a reason for that. Okay. I'm going to go ahead. Do I want to do that? No, I think I'll just press that to the darker side. Okay. Very gently. And now I'm going to put this other one on. And you will see when I get done with this that the reason I extended that out just ever so slightly and you'll notice too that my thread, my sewing line came right up in between where that crossed over. Okay, now let's take a look at this. You see now when I attach this section to my red square, it's not going to cut off my point because I've got that extra up there. All right, let me get that pressed and let me get the other 3 to this stage. I'll get them all pressed, I'll cut off my dog ears, and then I'm going to show you attaching them to this center square. Okay, I got my 4 little rounds. Let's take this first one and we're just going to put him right here. And I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to find the center of my square here and just press it just a tiny little bit. The desk that I am working on is what is called a partner's desk. So somebody could sit on that side and then their partner could sit on this side. It's very, very old. And on each corner, there is a pull-out drawer, or I don't know what you call that, counter space. So I have my little ironing mat over here to my right, and I think that's going to work out really good. Okay, so what I did is I just pressed a little crease right in the center. Okay, now I'll take where those 2 where that point is, and I'm going to put it on that little crease. And I am going to just take and put a pin in this. You know, I rarely pin, but when I was doing the sample piece, it just got kind of sloppy. And I just have a feeling it's because all of this is bias. And so it kind of seemed like it stretched out a little bit. So I'm going to do that. Now, let's see. How about I put those 2 that way and this one this up? It doesn't matter, I don't think. Okay, I'm going to put this one here. So I'm going to take that center. I'm just doing the opposite sides. I can't pin them all down at once. I'm just doing the opposite sides. And then I'll press those 2 back, and then I will do the next 2 sides. Does that make sense? I bet it does. But anyway, so this is an old desk that we've had for a while. Eric was going to use it in the barn as he could attach a vise to it and things like that, do manly stuff. And he decided that it just wasn't going to work for him. And I was like, I think it can work for me. How about we put it in the workroom? So that's one of the things that we've done, is to change up my sewing table for my quilting. So I'm kind of excited about it. Now, it was in rough shape, and let me tell you something, I spent a lot of time cleaning it, and then I cleaned it some more, and then I cleaned it some more, because it's been in the barn for a while. I think we bought it from an auction 4 years ago, and it's been sitting in the barn that whole time. I changed my needle. That helps a lot. So one of the things, now see, I got a little bit off right there. I think I'm going to take out a stitch or 2. Yeah. Let me get close up and see if you can see that. Let's see here. My thread, as I was coming to the end, my stitches went that way. I don't like that. So I'm going to take out a couple of those stitches. To be honest, it's kind of looking like I need stronger readers, because that's not very, I can't see that very well. What was I talking about? Oh, needles. You know, I was talking to you about that my needle was getting dull. And there are numerous ways that you can tell your needle is getting dull. And I mentioned that I could hear my needle popping as it went through my fabric. That's one way that you can tell your needle's getting dull. Another way is you're skipping stitches. What are some other ways? Can't think of any right off the top of my head now. But there are several ways that, and I think they say every 8 to 10 hours of sewing, you want to change your needle out. I probably don't change my needle out quite that often. Probably should. Oh, I'm thinking that's really pretty. Look at that nice point. Okay. I think I will press this towards the red because I don't want to have to press that way. That's a lot of bulk. So he wants to go that way. So that's the way we're going to press them. First, I'm going to set that seam just a little bit. And then I'll press towards the red. Or towards the center square. Maybe that's a better way to say it. Okay. And again, this is bias. So be very careful how you're pressing it. And when I say press, I mean up and down and not, you know, pushing the fabric. You don't ever want to push your fabric. Okay. That looks lovely. Now we're going to put the other two sides on. Doing the same thing, taking that, ouch, that center point right there and putting it on that mark. Get a few pins over here. And I grabbed one. That's helpful. Okay. Okay. Press that down just ever so slightly. There we go. Yeah, you can really tell that this is bias because it just kind of wants to go wherever it wants to go. So I'm glad I'm putting some pins in it. I will gladly put pins when I need to. Maybe I need to throw that pin out. He was getting a little dull. There we go. And the last one right there. Okay, let's get that sewn. When I'm crossing that center section, I'm making sure that I'm not going past where the two lines of stitches cross so that I don't lose my points. Stitch needle out of the way. There we go. Okay. One more seam here. This is really fussy. It tells you just how spoiled we are with our new machines. My thread cutter on my faff here takes so long to cut the thread. That's the epitome of spoiled, isn't it? My thread cutter is taking too long. But it does. Okay, here we go. All right, now I'm going to get that pressed up. That looks really, really pretty. And then I'm going to show you what I mean about the placement of those fabrics, okay? Okay, now what we're working on is the outer square and a square. So we did 4 of these and connected it all the way around this square. And now we're working on this one. So there's 1, 2 half square triangles, and then 1, 2, 3, and 4 triangles, okay? So what I was trying to describe, I've got it partially laid out here. is to make it kind of look like it was more in a line, they had these colors all the same. So that's what I've done. I've made those all the same. And that's why I had to lay it all out before I knew what colors to, I couldn't just lay it all out willy-nilly, because then I wouldn't know, you know, does this go there or does this one go over there? So kind of had to do a little bit of careful laying out. All right, now here are my half square triangles. I put some medium tones here in the half square triangles, and now I'm trying to decide, do I want these two half square triangles to be darks such as this, okay? Or do I want it more to be lights like this? Whoopsies. Like that. So I can't decide. Oh, well, you can't see that one either. Let me put this, I'll put him over here. Okay. So there's a dark example and there's a light example. I'm almost leaning towards the light. I think we'll go light. That's what we're going to do. Okay, so I need to go cut some more light triangles to fill in around here, 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 and there. Okay, let me do that, and then I'll get to putting this together. I've already put together the half square triangles, so we don't have to go through that again. Okay, let me get to some other things done. Got some more light triangles cut, so now I can fill in these places with light triangles. Okay, I almost changed my mind. I was almost going to put these mediums here and the lights there. I looked at it for a minute and decided, no, I like it the way it is right now. Okay, so first things first, let's grab these half square triangles and sew them together into units. Okay, get my glasses on. I'm just going to go all the way around and do that. Hold on tight when you get to that to the end. It does tend to kick your fabric out a little bit. Okay, and I'm just going to go all the way around. And I did trim these down to 2.5 inches. I forgot to do that when I was doing these half square triangles. And what that ended up doing is cutting off my points. I'm not going to go back and fix it on this one. It'll be all right. I'll show you close up what it did. And you know, you need to know too that, hey, you make a mistake, it's up to you whether you're going to fix it or not, first of all, but we all make mistakes. That's just part of the part of what we do. There we go. Okay. So if you'll see right, let me pull this out. See right there how that's been cut off? Yeah. So it might still get covered up. Anyway, I went back and trimmed them down this time to make sure that they looked really good. Okay, here we got our half square triangle units. And now that I picked this up, I'm going to have to figure out which way I had these. Okay. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to go ahead and press these open very carefully. Okay. And I'm working so carefully on pressing the seams open and whatnot because I want them to lay really nice, and I want it's kind of got to be pretty precise when you're working with small pieces and when you're working with bias. You want it to be, you want to really have a nice stable block. So if you can achieve that through opening your seams, that's a good thing, and that's a good reason to take the time to open up your seams. And I think it will help keep the block looking nice and flat. And I won't be pushing and shoving to get it nice and flat. I guess that's what I mean by it'll help when you have bias. Okay, now let's see here. He goes, not there. Where do you go? Ah, like this. Nope. Like that. Okay. That took a minute, didn't it? All right, and that one's going to go there then. And this one is going to go there. And this one is going to go there. Okay, see how I did that? Because this is leading into that one's leading into that one, etc., etc. There we go. Okay, now I've got to put these. Let's go through here before we put the sides on. Do I want to put the sides on or the top on first? Let's put the sides on first. So let's just go around here like this. Now, something you may have kind of looked at the fabrics I'm using and went, I wonder, as an ode to the quilt era where they used so many shirts and old dresses and things like that to make their quilts, I have thrifted a whole bunch of men's shirts from places like Tender Hearts thrift store and hospice and things like that. So I already had them cut up and broken down and ready to be used. And those little prints just looked perfect with this scrappy quilt. And I guess just because the old one has that sort of thing in there, I wanted the new one too as well. Okay, let's see here. This one goes here. Okay, see if I can get them all back where they belong, right? Okay, that one goes there, and the last one is going to go right here. And now I'll start this way and picking them up again. And again, I am just being really careful to line that up super straight and not let it wing out on the bottom there. Okay. The first block I didn't look that great. So that's why I'm being so careful with this one. I think it was just, this is a block that you kind of got to be careful with your sewing techniques as you're going to make it fit together nicely. So that is one lesson I learned. It's always good to make a sample block. Now, I wish I hadn't made it out of the fabric that I'm going to use, because I used up some of my fabric in that sample block, and I wish I hadn't, but that's okay. Okay. Now what I'm going to do is press these seams, and I think I'm just going to press them towards the outside. I don't think they need to be opened up. So let me do that, and then we'll get on to doing these. Okay? Okay, got all those pressed, the dog ears cut off. Now I'm putting together the two remaining triangles, and I'm not going to sew them down this side. I'm going to sew them down this side, okay? And I'm just squaring them up really nice and neat and running them through the machine. Holding on to that tail end as long as I can so that it doesn't go all silly on me. Now, I need to press these open too, so I'll be right back. They are pressed open, And now I'm just going to trim off those little dog ears. Like so. All right. And then that one's going to go here. And let's go ahead and put it on there. I think I'm going to go ahead and use some pins again, just to help me stabilize the fabric. So I'm going to match those two centers and pin that. Oh, did I get it through there? Nope. Okay, there we go. And then I'm just going to match there, or I'm not going to match anything on the ends. I'm just going to put a pin in the ends and on the floor. One just fell on the floor. Always the case. All right. So I've got it pinned like so. And now I can run it through the machine after I pick up this pin that fell. That way the doggies don't get it in their paws. Gotta take care of my babies. Okay. Take out that pin. And my seam should be laying flat. Yep. There we go. There. That looks nice. I think pinning it when you are working with a lot of bias is not a bad idea at all. That looks really nice. Let me press that. And then I'll show you. Not sure I like my iron on this side because I'm left-handed. And so I'm kind of having to turn all the way around. I like it over here because it's out of my way and I can do more over here. But it might just be in my way a little, might be a little bit difficult for me as a lefty. Okay, trimmed off those sides like that. And there's my unit, and he is going to get sewn on right there. All right, let me finish these other three, and then we'll get to sewing these on. Okay, I've put these two sides on. Now it's time to put these two on. Let's start with this one. Now I'm going to be really careful with my pinning. I'm going to pin, let's see, can you see that? Yeah. I'm going to pin this intersection really carefully. I'm going to pin this one, and then I'm going to pin the ends. Now, because I squared these down to 2.5 and I didn't square that one down to 2.5, it's going to be a little bit off on this block, and I'm okay with that. Let me pin these two sides together, and then I will show you how I sew it. I was going to put those in my mouth. I don't think I should do that. I think that's an old upholsterer's thing, is to put the pins in your mouth. Yeah, see, this is not quite going to make it. I'm going to kind of force it to a little bit there, but I want my block to be square in the end, so I don't want to stretch it and do funny things to it. So if that seam doesn't match right there, I'm okay with that. It'll match on the next one, but I'll get it close. Get it close. There we go. Okay, here we go. Now let's sew that seam. Pull out your pins, don't run over them. Make sure you're not cutting off your point here, and it's really easy to tell because you can see where those two seams cross. There we go. Pretty nice. Now we just got to do the other one, and then I'll get it all pressed, and then I'll show it to you. All right, here's our block. I think that turned out really pretty. Here's what it's going to look like on point. Loving it now. This would be a great place to use your clappers, your wooden little pieces of wood. that you lay on the seam, and then it really makes it nice and flat. So I think I'm going to heat that up again and put my clappers on it. But right now, I hear the chainsaw going outside, and I promised my beloved husband I would come help him. So I'm going to go in the house, grab a pair of gloves, and go help him pick up some sticks and stuff. All right. Okay, I got all the blocks finished. And now I've got it up on my fancy new design wall, which I am loving, by the way. And I'm putting in my side set in triangles, which you will find a formula in the pattern on our website to know how to make those side set in triangles. It's a really easy, it's a very simple calculation on how to do this. And you just basically, you're making them kind of extra large so that you can cut them back down. Okay, so, whoopsies. Got to press it down just a little bit. Now, the reason I made it this size instead of the size that you saw up here was because I only had a very small amount of this fabric, and I was making this all out of scraps. So that's why it's ending up to be this size. The second reason is I want to start decorating my work room with more quilts. And if I make it this size, it will fit above my window in the front. So that's why we're going to make it this size. Okay, this on point type of quilt comes together really just like you'd kind of put any other quilt together. It comes together in rows. This is the first row, that one piece, and then you sew this one to here and this one to here, and that's your second row. Your third row is this piece, this piece, this piece, this piece, and then a corner piece, okay? Again, a corner piece, this one, this one, this one, and this one are your next row. The next row is just 3, and the last row is just 1. So I'm going to get to doing that. I'll put it back up here and show you what it looks like, and we'll decide if we're going to put a border. Because of where I want to put it, I think I'm going to skip the border, and I think I'm going to bind it with this so that it doesn't distract from it. Okay, let me get to that, and then I'll show you how it looks. Okay, here it is. Got it all finished. Sorry I didn't take a video of it on the long arm machine. I usually do, and I just kind of forgot. I've got it hung up over the top of the antique one, and I hope I did it justice. There will be a downloadable PDF for this pattern, and I'll write it for probably a large size, and then you just make it the size that you need to make it. I'm following the antique way of doing things where you used up everything you had. I used a thrifted 100% cotton sheet on the back, and I thought that was a really neat way to pay homage to an antique quilt. I quilted it in diagonal lines. I'll get a close-up for you, and Savannah will insert it here or here or here or here, someplace. And I hope you like it. If you did, please like, share, and subscribe. Do all the things that make the algorithm sing. And until next time, stay quilting. Now let's go hang it on the wall. All done.